we're going to make a video of just our conversation, and I may or may not post this, but we'll see. Go ahead. It's not showing anything. Go ahead.
Well, I just I lost my train of thought because I didn't know what you were
You're
doing.
talking about Sunday school.
So, Sunday school. We were talking in Sunday school about how his ministry was Jesus' ministry, since people that are listening to this now are not going to know what we're talking about, but how his ministry was so short.
Yeah.
And I told him, like I've been in church at that time, I think it was 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so in that 4 year time period, I could have already, picked up my disciples, went out, walked around, taught everybody everything they're supposed to know, went to the cross, been crucified, rose again, sent back the comforter, like all that stuff would have taken place already 2 times.
Yeah.
In just the time period that I had spent already in church. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that's the thing. Jesus' intensity was on another level.
Yeah.
It was on a higher level, and when he was correcting somebody, he was very direct to the point.
Yeah.
He didn't play games. He didn't see no point in it. That's what Danielle was telling me. She's like, you're so direct to the point with everything. I said, because I have to be, because I'm limited in the amount of time. I don't get to spend days and days and days and days with you. I'm lucky to get one meal a week with you. I said, so the time that we have is valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know, and we say it all the time, people die and pass away. Well, you just never know how much time they got. I wish I'd spent my time better. I wish I'd spent my time better.
Yeah.
Why didn't you?
Yeah.
Why did you just sit and lollygag and waste all your time?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And we're guilty of doing it, just sitting around, flipping the TV on or passing time or whatever. We're guilty of doing it, but we could do so much better.
Right.
With the time that we are given with people.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, how do I say this? One of the things that the Lord was talking to me about yesterday morning, remember I told you when you said something about the measure of the seed?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I got excited and started saying that did he talk to you about the measurements this morning? It's because when I was washing dishes yesterday morning, he was talking to me about measurements, and having a measuring stick, and how all the things that we do in life, if we don't have a measuring stick, we may think this is enough or that's enough, or, you know what I'm saying, or it's not enough, or however we respond to different things in life, pretty much. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And but if you don't have a measuring stick of any kind, then it's different for people. You know what I'm saying? Because if your measuring stick is different,
yeah.
Like I use just like the time thing that you were talking about with Sunday school, and I know we've talked about that before. I get an hour a week. We talk about it at the jail. If you get 1 hour a week with a person, it could be the last day.
It could be.
That you ever get that minute to talk to them about salvation, to talk to them about being filled with the Holy Ghost, to talk to them. And, and we see it not just with the Sunday school, sometimes kids are there, sometimes they're not. They come to visit, visitors at the church. One time. One time. Are you going to love them? Are you going to teach them something solid? Or are you going to hurt their feelings? Or are you going to squander your time away? Like you have a decision to make.
Yeah.
Am I going to be prepared when I get there?
Yeah.
To give them what God has for them today? Am I going to just roll in, barely scraping in as a leader?
And that's why Paul said it. He said, I've got to be instant in season and out of season. He said, I don't know when the time is that something's going to bud. I don't know when something's going to produce fruit.
Yeah.
But I've got to be ready no matter the season.
Yeah.
I've got to be prepared because I don't know how long I will have with them.
Yeah.
Jesus, he knew without a doubt that he'd come for a purpose and for a cause.
Right.
He knew the exact season, day, hour that he would have to go to that cross to fulfill the prophecy. He knew how it all would have to align with even to the eclipse that went on for 6 hours.
Right.
He knew that he had to be on that cross at that moment because all these things were predestined to happen at that exact moment, from the earthquake and all these things that were going to happen in the earth. God had already placed it because the Bible says he was slain before the foundations of the world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That it was all planned out. He'd already planned an earthquake. He'd already planned the eclipse that went on. He planned things physically before they ever happened. He knew that he had to be on time. He had to be instant. in that moment. He knew that when he was carrying his cross, that he was going to have another man to help him.
Yeah.
He knew that man was going to take so many steps with him to help him get up that hill, help him get up Golgotha's hill. He knew the second that his body died, that ground was going to quake. The instant his body says, it is finished.
Yeah.
And it says he gave up the ghost.
Yeah.
And the earth quaked. He knew all these things were going to happen this time. So he knew that he had 3.5 years, from 30 to 33.5 or whatever, exactly how old he was, he died. Mm-hmm. But he knew he had 3.5 years to train up, 11 people, because Judas committed suicide, to train for sure, sticking with 11 people to change the whole world.
Right.
He knew how important every day was with them. Even when he sent them out 2 by 2, and he sent 70 of them out.
Yeah.
So he sent 35 pairs of men, or 30, I don't know if the women were involved, it doesn't say, but he sent 35 groups of 2 at a time to cities all around him, and they had so much time to come back and report to him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so that he couldn't do it all. Even when he was on the earth, he didn't do it all by himself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He sent 35 groups out to cast devils out into heal the sick.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His time was important that he spent with him. That's why he was so intense. That's why he was, hey, every moment matters. When he was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, like we have been, he wasn't up, playing video games or, whatever. He went to, the mountain to pray.
Yeah.
He redeemed his time. The Bible tells him, redeem your time. Redeem your time.
Yeah.
Pay attention. And it goes, we talk about spending time with other people, but we also got to spend our own time wisely.
Oh, yeah.
Because it'll get away from us in a heartbeat, especially with today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. You get up and it's on to bed, pretty much.
Yeah. But it was, like I said, me and Danielle were having that conversation about, why are you so intense all the time? And, you're always, correcting me. I said, there's only really 3 things that I get on to you about. That's God. You need to have your relationship with God. You need to keep your stuff picked up. And you need to pick up some responsibility.
Yeah.
I said, but I have such little time, it matters. And just like I told you a while ago, it's easier to train a child that don't have stuff than it is to retrain an adult.
Yeah, well, we talk about that all the time. We spend more time untraining.
Yeah.
Not just falseness or whatever, but I mean, a lot of false doctrine, but retraining the way people think. Yeah. And the way people respond, and just retrain.
It is retrain. And
retrain.
You retrain so much.
It really is. A lot of it is not even just retraining; it's no training.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we talked about last night with the, if you don't make a choice, you're still making a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's no training, and we have went into that. I know the last 20 years where a lot of grandparents stuff are raising children and all that stuff, and they're tired and people are working, and we have 2 parents working instead of 1 parent working, and kids are just being raised by the world.
That's what I tell you. It's so much more important that you're home with Max.
I know.
Instead of working or just it's so much more important because he needs training.
Yeah.
We know how our kid is. He is wide open as hard as he can go.
I can't believe he's not already coming.
Like if he could tear the mortar out of the brick, he would.
Yeah.
He would do it. And he needs some structure. He needs some training.
Yeah.
It's so important that the training is there. Are you trying to be a military? Yes.
Yeah.
You're trying to become militaristic in your thinking.
Yeah.
That this is important.
Yeah.
This is how we go forward. I have a purpose.
Right.
I have a calling. There's a need.
Right. Well, it's just like I said a long time ago. I'm raising a warrior.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. And it's true. It's like I told them last night. Them guys in the jail. I can't. Ricky, he said it. He said, "I want to be a part of something."
Yeah.
He said tears in his eyes. He's got tears all welled up in his eyes. He said, "I want to be a part of something." And I know Dalton does too. He reached over and pointed his finger at Dalton. He said, "I know he does too. We want to be a part of something." And it was when I was talking about, what Brother Hodges had said about God was raising up an army.
Yeah.
Out of that jail.
Yes, and he is.
And he is.
And he is.
He is.
He is.
And they want to be a part of something. And that's a part.
And they are a part of
they
something.
are. But that's a part of what's went wrong in their lives if they've not been a part of something that gave them a higher purpose.
Yeah.
That's honestly a lot of people go wrong.
That's where a lot of people are at, and just in the world in general.
They're floating through life and they don't feel like they have a purpose.
Yeah.
So they just kind of do whatever comes along, and a lot of times what comes along ain't right.
Yeah.
And it ain't good.
Right. I know, I know this is like a sideways conversation for anybody who watches this video, but we're just talking. We talk like this all the time, so this is just what goes on in this house. But just even the realization that, when God started talking last night about how, it was the fatherless, and it was they. It had just been a long time for some of them, and some of them never, that they had never had that father figure say, come over here.
Yeah.
I believe in you. I have faith in you. Like, you're good. I love you. All those things that are reassuring, that just in general as people, we need those things.
Yeah.
Like, we need that nurturing, that from a parent. And, like when God started speaking, or however you want to say it, when He started saying to tell those things, just watching their faces drop, like, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me. That message is for me.
Yeah.
And like I don't, I know some people don't know the people that are in there. Some of them aren't even from here, but seeing their lips tremble like children.
Yeah. Yeah. At one old
Like
fella, it's gut wrenching and heartwarming at the same time.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah.
Because the people are so broken.
Yeah.
And it's because they didn't have a father figure in their life that helped them.
Yeah.
That got behind them and said, hey, I'm in your corner, son. Or I'm in your corner, daughter.
Yeah. Come back home.
Come back home. I love you. Maybe you didn't get everything right.
Yeah.
But hey, guess what? You still got a home. You still got a place that loves you. They didn't have it. And it's like you said, you brought out my testimony about what God told me, that He is all things to me.
Yeah.
From where I didn't have a mom in my life, and all that stuff. He was all things. And these people have missed it. They've not got to that point where God's been able to become all things to them. Yeah. So the time that we have, that few minutes, we're supposed to be spending 30 minutes with them, and we took up, our whole time with just two cells.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it mattered. And it's kind of like you said, it's more important that the ones you have in there are getting what they need, rather than just trying to spread out a little bit over a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So, but it is true. You watch that one old fella that's sitting in the front. I don't know his name. He seems like I might have seen him before, but he's an old man.
Yeah.
I watched. He listened very intensely to the whole message, and I watched at the end there. I watched that old guy start to cry.
Yeah.
He's an old man. He's an old man. He probably in his 60s, but he started to cry.
Yeah.
Who knows what that old man has been through in his whole life?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Who knows what he's not had? He's not had somebody there to say, I love you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Isn't that the way of the world, to teach men to just be hard?
Teach them just to be hard.
When, there is a soft place, that people need to learn how to be soft with people.
Where they can let their guard down.
Well, the Lord was talking to me even in church a couple weeks ago, to tell somebody it's okay to take your armor off with me. And that's something else He was talking to me about yesterday, was a relationship of convenience. Kind of like, and this is going to sound like really like out of the way, but kind of like friends with benefits, as this world calls things, like that people use them as a friend with benefits. And, where they really need to learn how to just be intimate with Him. And, nobody wants to be in a relationship. This is kind of taking a different term, but nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody where you only love me when you need me for something. You know what I mean? When it's convenient for you, but I'm over here like, I still need to be loved, and I still need the things that I need, not just what you need. But
Yeah.
he was talking to me about that in like terms with how people are with him. You know, I only need you when I want you, and if I want to come in and take my armor off, you know, and we can be intimate, then that's fine. And if I don't, I'm gonna keep it on, and I'll keep you at bay, like I'll keep you at a distance. And it's not how we're supposed to be. But that's a little off the subject, but it's kind of not, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that is where you let your guard down, and you learn to be soft, and you learn to be gentle, and you learn to not have to have your guard up all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For men, you know, especially like it's, you know, that place where of safety.
Oh yeah. And armor does, especially. Well, I'm sure it's the same for men. Armor makes you feel safe.
Right. Of course.
Even though you're on the battlefield, you still feel safe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you know if somebody hits you, it's not going to hurt as bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or it's going to get deflected. And of course, these men come in there and their armor's tore all to pieces. They've been hit so much. And these women come in there and they're tore all to pieces because they've lived and they slept and they've ate and they've raised kids and been through multiple men and multiple wives and all these different things.
Yeah.
And their armors.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think the difference is. This is just us talking, so this ain't like some, you know, out of the Bible stuff. But I was thinking when you said that about, like, when I think about a man like keeps his armor on, but a lot of women, because we're created so different, we automatically have our armor off all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like we keep our hearts are on our sleeves, and I think that, like you said, when the men come in, they're battered and their armor is battered,
Mm-hmm.
and when women come in, they are battered.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They don't come in dragging their shield.
Yeah.
They come in dragging themselves
Mm-hmm.
because nobody has taught them, put your shield up.
Yeah. And there's probably some truth in that, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. That's another thing that makes me think, if you have armor on, okay, say you have plate mail on your chest, and you get hit, like with a sledgehammer or a mace, you get hit there, it don't bruise the outside. It bruises on the inside. A hard hit with armor on doesn't really bruise the outside as much as it will on the inside. It will tenderize you from the inside and hurt what's on the inside, and the outside will look fine with armor on.
That's a man thing, isn't it?
It's a man thing.
It is really, like, it just occurred to me, about the difference in just how we're created. And also, that is just so true. Like, that is such a man thing, that men will wear the armor and men will have their internal scars, and you will not know. Maybe by the actions and, the product of, behavior or whatever, you'll know some things. But men don't let that out. But women, you'll see it.
You'll see it.
You'll see it. You'll hear it. You'll feel it.
If you notice when we get in there, we get to preaching and you get to singing, and all of a sudden, you'll start seeing the tears well up in the men's eyes.
Yeah.
You'll start seeing them sitting back there and they start shaking their head. And as they shake their head, they've got tears running down their face.
Yeah.
It's like you talking about that one boy, he was quivering back there in the back. God was dealing with him.
Yeah.
And it's from internal things.
Yeah.
Most people in car wrecks don't die from external stuff. It's internal bleeding.
Yeah.
The biggest part of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they get slammed so hard that their lungs break loose or something tears on the inside and they can't get it stitched up and they bleed out internally.
Yeah.
Before they can get anything done about it.
Yeah.
Internal bleeding is probably the number one cause in car accidents, death. Honestly, because of the sudden stop, the sudden impact.
Yeah.
So I'm saying whenever you get hit with armor, it's sudden impact. But there's a cushion between it. But it causes internal damage.
Yeah.
And that's how men are. Men are wired that way. For whatever reason, we are that way. You'll look at us and think everything's fine. Hey, he's hard, he's tough. And on the inside, he's ripped to shreds and he's bleeding.
Yeah. So it also makes me think about so that's how men are, and then you think about how women are, and like really like your roles, as in like biblically how the Bible is laid out, for men to be the provider, women to take care of the home and spiritual things in the home and all those things. But it just shows just how we're talking about the armor thing, with men and women. And then you look at how men are treated and how men are, expectation of a man in the world that we live in right now. And you look at the women and how women are actually treated and taken advantage of because they are built with those. I will nurture you and I will take care of you, and so women become so easily taken advantage of by the world, and they get beat down so far because they don't want to tell people no, and they want to be pleasers, and they want to be all these things, and then you have the whole thing about like not having dads in the picture, and not having moms in the picture, and not having fundamental raising stuff, along with the attack of just the enemy that tries to break families down and break down God's purpose for what I'm saying, for multiplication of disciples and all that stuff. It's just kind of interesting how it all kind of works together. To me,
It
does that make
is.
sense?
It is. I watched my mom. My mom's dead and gone. You talked to her last night. That had how she lost her life and stuff. But mom's dead and gone. I can remember being a child. It's not a story. It's not. But it's a memory that comes to my mind so often. It's funny. My mom wasn't. She was not your ideal mother. What she was able to do. She was. It's a hard time. Let's say it that way. But I watched as a young child. I remember one time we lived on Flat Gap Road, and we were in this trailer, didn't have running water. And I said if we would go down to the creek and get our water, literally, we would go down there and get water and bring it up and heat it up on the stove and pour it in the bathtub, and that's how I take a bath. But I remember, one time her boyfriend at the time, I'm not gonna mention his name, but he got drunk. I'm not sure if he got high or whatever. And maybe mom had drunk with him, and all of a sudden I remember a bunch of screaming and yelling and them standing in the hallway of that trailer. And I was looking through there, and all of a sudden he just started beating her to death. She hadn't really done nothing. This is a story that I've seen repeated multiple times throughout my time visiting and being with my mom, that he just started beating on her. Beating her. And then next thing you know, he's got her down in the floor and he's beat her half to death, and I've watched it. And there's blood everywhere because her nose is pouring where he's busted her nose. And all of a sudden, he turns around and he starts saying, I'm sorry. And he starts crying and throwing up because he's got sick from drinking so much. And just all that all happened within like a 2-minute span.
Yeah.
And he sits out and he opens the back door. My mom's still bleeding. And he sits down on the back, at the back door or whatever of the trailer, and there's no porch, no nothing, just a huge overdrop. It's probably 6 feet off the ground. And he's throwing up out the door. Guess who gets up and holds his head so he don't fall out the back porch? Or out the back door.
Wow.
With blood still running down her face. She's holding his head up to keep him from falling out.
Wow.
And telling him he's going to be all right. And she's looking at me every so often. It's okay, honey, because I'm screaming at him.
Yeah.
I'm screaming, stop hitting my mom. Stop doing it to my mom. And she's screaming, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. This is the kind of life that I was exposed to as a kid. Yeah. Another time I remember going and visiting my brother who I hadn't got to see in a long time. And my mom had, this is a different guy. And mom had told me, well, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to fix you pancakes. I hadn't seen mom in months. I hadn't seen my brother in months. Finally found out, hey, they're close, they live close. And his last name was McComb. And she told us that night that she can get fix us a big breakfast and all that stuff. Everything's fine, So it was 6 o'clock at morning, 6, 7 o'clock at morning, what time it was. It was early. Mom don't get up early. She never did. Yeah. But we got up and I was hungry, so we found some grape nut cereal or whatever. We were sitting there eating at the table, and me and my brother just talking. And we had never, we were just enjoying it. We were just kids, little young kids, what I'm saying? My brother wasn't very old, and I wasn't very old, He might have been 6, so I might have been, 11, 12. It wasn't real old. And he got up, her boyfriend time got up, come through and seen that we were eating grape nut cereal. And he went there and yelled at her in the back bedroom, and she come walking through there, and he's yelling at her, whatever. And you said you were going to fix them kids pancakes and blah, blah, blah. It's 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Ain't nobody high.
That's Daniel's
okay.
Alarm clock.
Sorry, there's an alarm going off. But anyway, there ain't nobody high. There ain't nobody doing nothing. And all of a sudden, I never see him, but it's like he reached through that hallway and grabbed her. She still got sleep in her eyes. He's grabbed her and he is beating the brakes off of her. Pulls her back to the bedroom, her yelling and screaming, and he's beating the fuzz off her.
Yeah.
I mean, just beating her low down. And after 2 or 3 minutes of him just beating on her and beating her, she comes hobbling back through that hallway and trying to fix pancakes.
Oh, Lord.
And me telling Mom, it's okay, Mom, it's okay, Mom, it's okay. And she's like, I said I was going to fix you pancakes. You know, that's, our women will go through hell on earth because other men are broken on the inside.
Yeah.
There's so much wrong. And a lot of people that we deal with and talk with have gone through this or have done this.
Yeah.
To other people.
Almost everybody has some level of something very similar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, them, their family, their parents, their, you know, something. You know, I know we talk about it, and I know it's hard when you know that people have done stuff to people, and people have hurt people, and people have killed people, or whatever, you know, killed children, you know, killed baby, whatever, killed their own baby, you know, and you're ministering to these people. And Jesus is the same, the blood's the same, you know, we talk about that. You have to be able to see people through the eyes of God. You have to be able to see them with the Jesus eyes on. This is somebody who has got something wrong on the inside. Something's messed up. Somewhere along the way, something has happened and they've gotten off track. And God is still a redeemer. And I know not this week, and I know a lot of times we don't share a lot of stuff, you know, especially on here, and I'm trying to be careful. I'll be careful about what I say, but I know, not this week, but you know, a couple weeks, last week, a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, when we had out some people and we were talking, and you know, we don't try to like look in people's cases, but some cases are public and they're in the news, you know, we just accidentally see what's going on. So there is a man in there who is he's been picked up a couple times for some kind of child pornography or some kind of child sexual whatever. I don't know, because I, you know, try not to read into whatever when it popped up. So anyways, but we know that, and we know that God's a redeemer. He's still redeemer, and I'm not the judge for that. You know, he will be, you know, serving lawfully what he's given or whatever, and that's not my job. So, but whatever week it was, you know, you went back and talked to him, and he's been coming out to church for a year.
Yeah.
At least, and the whole time that we have been there, he has been coming out faithfully to church service every Wednesday that we have them out, and he doesn't always just respond. Like sometimes he looks really distant, and sometimes he looks like he's not paying attention, and you know, the host will be pouring their hearts out, and he just doesn't look like he's even there. You know, he just kind of sitting back there doing whatever. Well, you went back and was talking to him, and we had been talking about forgiveness. And I know you could probably tell the story better because it was you talking to him, and I was singing, and I was just kind of, you know, watching what was going on. But, you know, when you talked to him about forgiveness, though, you didn't say, you know, like, you need to be forgiven, because we've talked about that all year. But you started talking to him about forgiving people who have done things to him.
Yeah.
And that is so true about how when we see people and we're like, well, you did this to me. Like, nobody ever stops, or some people do, you know, we obviously do, but, and I know others do, but most of the time when we look at people doing something, they've done something wrong, we don't say, you know, well, listen, that kid went through hell when it was a baby. And it was raising itself, you know, while, you know, mom was strung out. And that child was, you know, we've talked about, you know, a couple of the women that we know that were prostituted out as small children, you know, for drugs. And now they're living that lifestyle, you know, of, you know, bondage, living in bondage, you know, because of things that happened to them as a kid. Yeah, and so like when you look at these people, as the world looks at them, well, she's just hooking herself out down at the truck stop so that she can get some dope. She's a crack whore.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way people call it.
Yeah.
But God sees that beginning. Where you have a 5-year-old girl who somebody's boyfriend's coming in and molesting them or raping them while mom's passed out,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the product. This isn't who that person is.
It's not who they are.
This is the product of something that has happened.
Yeah.
And people go their whole life with these judgmental things. They're stealing my stuff, or they're whatever. It just
That people deal with the fruit and never look at the root.
Yeah.
What caused this person to be that way? Can you get them back to that root
and how
to
can
help
you
them?
fix it? Yeah.
Can you replant them? Because Jesus talked, he said, I am the vine.
Yes.
You are the branches, and you can do nothing without me.
Yeah.
He said, if you can, basically what he's saying is, if we could just get people back to him.
Yeah. Grafted in.
Grafted into him.
Yeah.
Everything that's good, which is him, will start changing their fruit.
Yeah.
All this stuff that they do, all this, the criminal activity, all the stuff. Listen, even in your own lives, if you got stuff going on, everything that's wrong in your life can be changed.
Yeah.
But it's about being grafted into him.
Yeah.
We started this conversation out with talking about time, and it's the time that we have to get people grafted in.
Yeah.
It's important to stay intense.
Yeah.
A grafting process is intense, if you want to think about it that way, because you don't get pulled away. You're getting something new that you didn't have before put into you.
Yeah, and you're cleaning wounds.
And you're cleaning wounds. And everything's got to be done quickly. Because if you leave it out too long, it dies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, whatever you're grafted into will just heal itself up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Scar over.
But it's fact, dealing with, when you look at people, and it's what he told me. You measure by bread, and I measure by seed.
Yeah.
I look at potential. You look at in process.
Mm-hmm.
What you see in front of you, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be, hey, what's your charges and what's your case?
Yeah.
It should be, how good is the blood?
Oh yeah.
How good is the blood of the Lamb? Was it for my sin? Was it for your sin? Was it for that sin or just this sin? How good was that blood?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I can't even remember who I was talking to the other day, but I was talking about they just, and I don't know what other church services are like at jail, obviously, but just these super intense services that are going on, where like was it last week that Brother Mike was there and we did the Waymaker?
Yeah, I think it was.
Like there was that intense peace of God that just fell, and that adoration of who God is, and I wish I remember who I was talking to, but I was like, like when you are at church, like you just remember that you're at church, and sometimes when you go into the jail, like it's like, this is the jail, we're having church in the jail.
Mm-hmm.
But we have been having for a long time services where you forget you're at jail, because these people have become church.
Yeah.
They have become the church. Many of them have become the church. And the only difference between them and the people, sitting out in the pew is jumpsuit and lock on the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's not any different, there's just not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is such a beautiful thing. What has happened in there is that I feel more freedom and more like, this is church, this is worship, this is deep, intense worship with my brothers and sisters in Christ, and you just forget even where you're at.
It's not programmed.
Because it's freedom.
Yeah, it's
in
not
Christ,
programmed.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're there to minister to what needs to be happening.
Yeah.
You're not there to get through your sermon. You're not there to sing your 3 songs. You're not there to just take up your prayer request and your offering and go home.
Yeah.
You're there to minister to what needs to take place.
Yeah.
Whatever it needs to happen, God gives us the freedom to do it. And I really believe that's what church should be.
Yeah.
You're there to minister to what, I know we're supposed to get training and all that stuff, and we should have classes and stuff,
Right. We
but
need
you should be
foundational
there
things.
to minister to what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It ain't just about going to listen to one man say what he has to say and everybody going home and thinking they're okay.
Yeah.
That's not what church should be.
No. And I mean, it just, and being able to get lost in that moment, like when I'm going to say this and I don't mean it, like, I don't want you to respond to me. I say this. But like you have a boyfriend or you have a girlfriend and you're just like, lovey-dovey, and you spend your time on the phone or you spend your time together, and before you know it, you've just lost hours of time. If you had a girlfriend like that, I don't want to know about her. I'm just kidding. That's why. You know what I'm saying. But you know what I mean. We do it. We sit up all night sometimes and talk, and before we know it, the sun's up, and we're like, "Oh, dude."
That's why the services are in the jail.
We forgot to go to bed.
That's why we never can just stay 30 minutes. And I have to watch my phone. I pick my phone up all the time because I know that if I don't stop,
yeah,
and these people are like, hey, I'm ready for something different.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I want to be helped. I don't just want to keep living this nonsense of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to stay involved in it. I want to get free. And God says, I can get you free.
Yeah.
If you can get grafted in.
Yeah.
We got a short time to help them get grafted in.
Yeah. But it happens in those freedom moments. It's kind of what I was getting at. It's just when you get lost in the presence of God, and that's where real freedom is at. Is when you're incarcerated. You know what I'm saying? Even in the world, you're in prison in your mind. You're in bondage with, whatever you're ailed with, you know what I'm saying? But you get in God's presence, and you get lost in love, in the moment, in worship, all those things, and you forget where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? That's where you start to get that intimacy and that help and all that stuff.
Like nothing else around you matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey, this is what it means to be free.
Yes, that's what I've been seeing happen in the jail. That's what I was getting at, is just for people that don't go with us or whatever. We've been watching that happen.
Yeah.
It's just people for an hour at a time or 2 hours. Sometimes a little longer or whatever. That in that moment, there's freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what Jesus really is. And it really is a lot of about what we talked about, how people try to fight principalities and things they don't actually have power over.
Mm-hmm.
In like a city, to be free, you don't have to have, the keys to the devil's kingdom, you know what I'm saying, or the keys to everybody's house or whatever, but you can be free right in the middle of the prison.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle of your city. Your house can be the freedom house.
It is. And that's what the scripture says. The scripture says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
Yes.
Freedom.
Yeah.
It's like Ricky said last night. I'm pretty sure his name's Ricky. He sat back in the corner, and like he almost interrupted you. He's like, we know. We're talking about that. You were talking about how we care about him and stuff like that. Yeah. He's like, we know. We feel it. He said it. He said, he said sometimes we don't feel like I have hope. Yeah. He said, but I come up here and I go back. I got hope.
Yeah.
I got hope. The Bible says that He is our hope.
Yeah.
That He, God, Jesus,
yes.
is our hope.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is so important. That is exactly why. It's, no, not a program, not a show, not a you watch me sing, you guys sit there. Or
not even I'm going to give you 17 minutes to get all your praying and all
get everything done.
Get 40 years of garbage that's been in you out, and you got 17 minutes to pour it all out.
Yeah.
And then you got 30 seconds to get over this altar and give everything you got out and get everything perfect and walk back to your seat a brand new person. No, that's not real.
Yeah. And also, I just, I'm just sharing things because we're just sharing things this morning, but seeing them worship, when people in jail are hard.
Oh yeah, they're real.
They're real and they're hard.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So when you look at the difference, I'm not talking about like, our church or church people or whatever. This is not like my goal here, but I'm just saying, like, that God's people that already know Him, they're filled with the Holy Ghost, they know God.
Mm-hmm.
they already know that they can go into his presence and they can pour their heart out and they can worship freely, and a lot of their stuff is dealt with. The
Yeah.
big things, have
Right.
been dealt. They've worked through those already, and they're just working through life now. But these people they're hard.
They're hard.
They're hard, but to see them come into God's presence and out worship the people that go to church
Yeah.
on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
or really get real and pour it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it encourages me. Like, if you guys know me and Brother Cromer, we are both loud and we are both worshipers.
Mm-hmm.
And that fruit, from the tree is happening at the jail. They are learning to become real worshipers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like real worship. Get in there, do the thing. Let your
Yeah.
tears out. It just is funny to me to watch the.
It amazes
sometimes.
me. Maybe it amazes me more with the men than it does the women, because I understand it. It amazes me to bring out 8 men out of a cell, and 7 out of 8 begin to pour their heart out. I mean, just tears coming out of their face like waterworks, and you can just see it melted away. Hardness.
Yeah.
You can see that God's dealing with them. God's helping them. God's doing something.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't always know what God's talking to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You don't always know exactly what kind of pain, childhood trauma or adult trauma that these men have been through.
Yes.
And God's working on them.
Yeah, you said it, adult trauma. We leave that out sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Adult trauma, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just, but it's great. And I'm gonna tell you, from a man standpoint, to let your tears out, and from a woman that's sitting there looking at you,
yeah,
that's hard.
Yeah.
That tells you how intense the Spirit of God is.
Yeah.
Take a bunch of hardened men.
It is intense.
Take a bunch of hardened men who are bound by devils and spirits and lives of trauma, done trauma to other people, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Begin to let their tears out in front of somebody that they typically would be strong or try to impress.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they're like, hey, here I am. And like, not all of them, but the majority of them are like, I'm not even concerned with Sister Tassa over here, even though she's gorgeous. She has a voice like an angel. I'm not even concerned. I'll get to listen to her sing later, but right now I need to let God talk to me. Yeah. It's more important that I drop my ego, my pride, my pain.
Yeah.
And and just let God, and God's coming in the room. And God's coming in the room, and He's saying, I'm the focus.
Yes, He is.
I'm the man in this environment, and I can heal you, I can help you, and these guys are getting it. That's why it matters so much to me, because I get the mentality of a man, how it is you're supposed to be strong, especially if there's some pretty woman around or whatever, and you're supposed to try to impress. You know what I'm saying? Just the male dominant,
right.
how male wired. But I'm just saying, I get that, and these men are like, no offense to you, but they're like, I ain't got time. Even though you're my wife, but just that mentality. Yeah. They're like shutting that mentality off.
Yeah, and it's the anointing. We know the anointing
breaks that yoke.
What breaks the yoke.
Yeah.
And so, and we prove it time and time again, because even like last night, I told you I heard those 2 songs yesterday in my head, and I was like, I don't play those. I don't know how to play them, and I was like, well, I'll just print them really quick and hope the chords are something right, because some people put the chords on the internet wrong or whatever, and I played them and they didn't sound anything like what they're really supposed to, and I was just playing and I was singing in the chord that I know that I usually sing them in if I hear them on the radio or whatever, and I was playing different chords, I'm saying it was all over the place, but there was something happening in the atmosphere, and I was just like, I know this ain't right, but God's presence was so strong and the anointing was so strong that it was just like, it doesn't even matter, like, just keep singing. And, it's kind of funny, like, because when you have things to do with music, like, you hear everything that's off anytime anybody does it, especially yourself. And it was all off, you know what I'm saying, for man's ears.
Yeah.
For the spirit man.
Yeah.
God was working it. Like, He was like, I'm here, I'm doing the thing. This is exactly the words I told you to sing.
Yeah.
You say the words, I'll do the things I'm supposed to be doing. And He did.
And it's faith. It's faith. You are obedient. Like I said, we taught on faith last night. And it really is. You just be obedient and I'll do the rest.
Yeah.
That's all God looks for.
I would rather him just do his part. You know what I'm saying?
You might think you're out of whack. But he says, if you can just be out of whack and let me have the glory, I'll do it.
I know. And you have to let your pride down too.
You have to let your pride down to do it.
You know that. I mean, if he told you, you know, I want you to say ba 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 da 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 to these people, you know what I mean, as a man and as somebody who studies and is studious and wise and all things that you've already, like, you'd be like, I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't look like a fool. That'll make me look stupid. Yeah. You know, and it's the same thing for me. Like, I'm like, I ain't playing no song I don't know. You know, like, but I know deeply, you know, if God says, I don't care if you have to stand and shout these words at these people, and you know how I do. Like, it's all wonky and it's all God thing, you know.
But it's exactly what we talked about with the faith thing.
Mm-hmm. And obedience.
It's obedience. Faith is really obedience.
Yeah.
And God responds to that.
Yeah, he does.
God responds to that. Like I told him last night, you know, God is a faith-based God.
Yeah.
And faith is not a miracle.
Yeah.
Faith is obedience.
Yeah. Faith
is walking just on what God said to walk on.
Yeah.
And nothing more, nothing less. Just doing it even though you don't understand it. Abraham walked and didn't understand where he was going, but he said, look for a city whose builder and maker was God.
Yeah. Tassa does too.
Tassa does. Noah built an ark for 100 years.
Yeah.
He never seen the raindrop. He never could see it, but he could visualize it.
Yeah.
He could visualize a storm coming. He could visualize it in his head, but he hadn't seen it. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, not yet seen.
Yeah.
You know, all these things, these great men of God that we look at, faith was not in the miracle.
Yeah.
Moses standing at the Red Sea wasn't the miracle, wasn't faith. It was a part that he said he stood at the Red Sea with his arms stretched out all night long. That was faith.
Yeah.
That was where the faith came. The faith came for the 10 hours he stood there on that bank with his hands stretched out.
Oh, yeah.
That was the faith part. The faith wasn't the part where the waters were separated and they congealed, like turned to jello is what the Bible means. They were congealed, they were humped over and turned to jello, basically. That's what it means.
I love it.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That wasn't the faith part. The obedience is what caused that. The faith part came from standing on the shore.
Yeah.
Moses, stretch out your hand. Moses, say to the rock. That was the faith. Yeah. Miracles happen. Don't think they don't happen at any time. Moses struck the rock even though God said to say to it one time. First time he struck it when God told him to strike it.
Yeah.
The second time he said speak to it, and Moses didn't have faith, but it still happened.
Ain't that just us right there?
It is.
Sometimes God will say one thing, we think we got it.
Miracles can happen because of...
better. Let me do it this way.
But miracles can happen because of need.
Yeah.
Israel needed to be watered both times. They needed to have water for their cows and for themselves. But Moses wasn't faithful the second time. And when he wasn't faithful, even though Israel got water, he missed out on his promise.
Yeah.
Because his faith failed.
Yeah.
He didn't get to go into the promised land because he wasn't faithful. Even though he'd been faithful all through all that other stuff. When he was faithful, he kept his promise. When he was unfaithful, he lost it.
It's interesting.
Faith is intense.
It is intense, really. I was thinking earlier about, I say earlier, I don't even know what time it is now.
It's like 6 o'clock in the morning.
I was thinking earlier today.
It's 6 o'clock. We've been up since 4 o'clock,
least,
but we've been sitting and having a conversation for the last hour, which I'm coming up on 50 minutes, so I'm going to have to cut the video short off.
I was just thinking about it. You were talking about how Jesus knew, things that were going to happen, like the earthquake was going to come and all those things are planned out. And, I was just thinking about that because we talk a lot of times like, I just wish God would just tell me something like, we know part of what's going to happen, but can you just show me some more of the process? Yeah. Can you just show me a little more, just encourage me, build my faith up a little bit, but it makes you even think about it, if you look at it in the Jesus scenario of being crucified, if he told you, Brian Cromer, Tassa Cromer, if you follow through with the plan this week, if you go on to the jail and you preach this word and you do things I'm telling you to do, Friday they're going to crucify you in the middle of town. They're going to take you.
Do it.
They're going to take you Pine Hill. You know what I mean? And crucify you up on a mountain or whatever. Would you be able to follow through if you knew the plan?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if you actually knew. That's the real difference. You know what I'm saying?
That's the difference. That's the difference. That's why faith is what you walk by, not what you see.
Yeah.
We walk by faith and not by sight.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of trying to walk by sight, not by faith.
Everybody is, I think, sometimes.
Saying. Listen, I'm going to cut this video off. My phone is literally running out of minutes. Ability to hold it. So anyway, this is our morning conversation at 6 a.m. If I decide to upload this or whatever, 5 a.m. is when it started, 6 a.m. now. So anyway, I may upload this later. I hope y'all enjoy our conversation. I may let you see my wife right quick. Smile real big, Tessa.
Good morning.
So we've been up since 4 a.m. just talking about stuff, and so that's it. I'm getting ready to go out to the building, do some study, and then go meet my boy for breakfast. So God bless you all. And I may not make a video this morning. This may be our video. God bless you.